Hello, I'm Matt Adcock.
And I'm Shane Stadler, and this is The Shadows Project.
In this episode of The Shadows Project, we bring together two of the 21st century's finest craftsmen. Matt Adcock, author of the bizarre and brilliant novel Complete Darkness, and physicist Shane Stadler, writer of the stunning and haunting book series Exoskeleton.
Yeah, you've never met now.
No, we've never met. I only know him from his video and from his book now.
Yeah. Did you read the book, Shane?
I did, yes.
Oh, brilliant. So you can introduce each other a little bit. But first of all, I was awake last night reading your book. I was absolutely blown away. Brilliant. Yeah. We need the movie to come out. So I was saying this about Matt's book. I thought Matt's book was also great as well. So it's great to have both of you on. Just for people who haven't watched the other video, would you be able to just briefly say what Matt's book's about? If you know, if you understand.
Yeah, I don't I don't want to get it wrong. Of course, this would be my take. First of all, I saw that it was 200 pages.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I haven't been reading much lately because of my day job and what have you. And so I get little time to read. So I thought 200 pages, this is going to be a quick read. And I was wrong. It's you have to pay attention in this one, and there's a lot of details there, and so I had to carefully go through it. It took me longer than I thought. It was very enjoyable. It was a great experience. It was nice to be able to justify taking time away from all this other stuff to read, to get a break. I see Matt's book as a sort of a, I don't know if you would characterize it as cyberpunk exactly, but it does have some aspects of that. The basic theme of this is that this dark matter that permeates the universe, that is a mystery to scientists these days, has some very different meaning than just scientific meaning. There's sort of a deeper existential meaning to it, and that existential meaning has to do with hell, I guess. Right. So as humans start to explore and get an idea of what this dark matter is starting to be, the entity that is sort of owns this dark matter, if you will, doesn't like what's happening, and essentially wants to exterminate humanity before we get a hold of what's actually going on.
It's a cheerful, yeah.
Does that sound right to you, Matt?
Did he pass the test, Matt?
You put me on the spot a little bit, because it's hard to summarize something a book like this in just a few sentences.
Yeah. That's difficult, but
But then what happens from this is that a superhero is sort of born out of this attempt by evil to rid the universe of humanity before they figure out what the dark matter is, essentially, and then that is the devil's downfall in the end.
Matt, was that a better description than I gave? Like, what did I call it last time? I called it porn or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I had a reviewer give me 1 star and said that it was just too disturbing. She was shocked by it, and I was like, that's the point. You're supposed to be.
That's a good bad review, though. Yeah.
Matt, I get some of that too. I get some of that where it's people won't even finish the book because they never get through through half of it, where the violence, which is not just gratuitous violence, there's a meaning to it, and people will put up a review before they even finish the book, and call it torture porn or those kinds of things before they even know what the book is about. They discard it, and you get a bad review. Well, you can't please everyone, right?
Go on. And I think, isn't it better though to get a bad review than to get a meh, kind of like, it didn't mean anything to me. I loved especially your first Exoskeleton. I thought the premise of it is so simply summed up. Do you want to do your time, or do you want to take this chance on this experimental program? And that's like such a fascinating, what would you do in that situation? And of course the consequences are horrific, but you don't know that initially. So I really like that. I thought that was very strong.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, when it comes back to it at the end, there's lots of little things that, like, parallels between the two books. Yeah, so there's parallels where it's got to do with ethics and religion and spirituality and physics. It's got so many, like, different things going on. The style's totally different here. Like, your writing style is totally different from Matt, but there's lots and lots going on in both stories. Even little things, like at the end, he was in for, like, I don't know if that was intentional, Matt. Shane, when you said he was in on the program for 40 days. Some kind of biblical, you know.
Yeah, sure. There's that was intentional.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah, there's a lot of symbolic connections to many things, including biblical things, certainly in the cult.
So how much of this story is yourself in the story? You know, like because, like, he stops to watch a football game in your story, and he gets accused of doing this terrible crime, and like, for example, is lots of it based on you, like a physicist? That did you play football to, like, a certain level? Because when I was looking at your pictures on Google, you didn't look like a physics teacher to me. You looked like tough, and you looked like a football player or something. So I started to draw parallels to the story. So how much of you is the main character in the story?
There's a lot. First of all, yes, I did play American football. I played European football too, soccer. But I played college football, and I played baseball. I was into athletics a lot as a young kid. But when I started writing the first book, which was my first book, one exercise that is suggested when you first start to maintain a point of view is to pretend like the main character is yourself. Mm-hmm. And like you're seeing, how would you see these things through your own eyes? And that is the way it started. So there are a lot of things that I wanted to make, have some familiarity, so that I could just continue to write with the proper perspective. And that, of course, it went away from that as time went on. But yes, so there are definitely some connections there. There's a facet of me in Will. So that helped me with my writing.
Do you like pain? No.
Do I like pain? Yeah, no. In fact, there are other stories that personal stories that connect into the sort of the dental scenes and those kinds of things. And no, I do not like that. So there was some emotion put into that part of the writing. And,
if you put in stuff that actually freaks you out, that's a good way to gauge how it's going to hopefully affect other readers too. Because like stuff in my book, like the gut job, where you get into prison and if you have your intestines rewired to yourself to eat your own shit. I mean,
what a scene that was. That was great. That was a difficult one.
Yeah. What a deterrent,
Yeah, that's it. So Matt, we said we talked about your book last time, and we talked about, like, how much of you that character's based on you. Like you said, it was like, so do you go around having lots of girlfriends and drinking excessively, or?
I think it's more fulfillment character, So this is a kind of a loner, kind of who becomes a hero. I mean, that's a kind of like something I would enjoy, that arc for myself. But who wouldn't want a robot sidekick who can do stuff for you, protect you, and fight stuff? Who wouldn't want to hook up with the ultimate woman created by men in a lab? It's a very masculine kind of wish fulfillment in a very dodgy kind of way. But I don't think in real life I have any chance of doing that. And if my wife is watching this, of course I would never want to do that.
I'm gonna edit that bit out. So the physics the physics side of it, yeah. So when you talk about, like, dark matter, how much of this are you into? Do you know about it? Could you, like, talk to Shane about it? Like, what do you know?
I mean, I took a deep dive on it because a lot of it is actually being investigated right now, and stuff like the Hydrogen Collider. I don't know if you saw in the news the other night, they think they found a fifth force, which is breaking molecules and making physics work in a way we didn't know it worked before. I mean, that's scary, because if that's the case, then we stand on the precipice of something like Incomplete Darkness. Who knows where we land with this? I mean, it's probably not they've discovered hell, But would they tell us if they had? It's all that kind of stuff.
Shane, what do you think of this fifth force? This new force, sorry, that they found?
Oh, I've not come across that yet. I mean, there have been lots of experiments have pointed towards results that they can't explain, and often they hypothesize something to explain it, and that might be another force. And right now, actually, we're down to 3 forces because they're able to. Remember, the grand unification theory is supposed to sort of melt all of these forces into one overall governing force. So finding a 4th or a 5th force would be sort of it's going backwards and forwards at the same time. The more you learn, of course, the better, the more information we have to try to devise something that explains everything, the theory of everything. But I'm not familiar with what Matt is what Matt's reporting, but it could be.
It's brand new, Shane. I just saw it on the news, like literally a couple of days ago.
Got it.
It's the latest Bernie and their hydrogen collider. They think they've found something that's changing physics. I mean, that was their words. So who knows where we go from here? It's exciting, right?
Yeah. In my department, we have a huge number of faculty, and there are people who are searching for dark matter,
Nice.
and things up into space. And dark matter is, for your book, I think is a fine, topic to go after in terms of it being mysterious, because they really don't know what it is. In fact, they're kind of making it up to explain things that can't be explained right now, right? So, and that's where a lot of physics starts. I mean, particle physics predicts, they're like open spots. Well, we should find something that looks like this kind of particle, and then they go looking for it, based on the theory, and they find it. Dark matter is, along those same lines, and like I say, mysterious. So it's fine that you can dive into the, use it for fiction as much as you want. It's until of course, 10 years from now when they know what it is, or 20 years from now when they know what it is, then it's going to be a little bit of a problem. But until then, you're fine.
Do you ever find that, Shane? Can I ask? Like you're dreaming what might happen, and in the time it took me to create Complete Darkness, some of the stuff I thought was like future has actually happened now, and that's really kind of like quite disconcerting. Because like Blade Runner was a couple of years ago, the original one, we've passed that date when it was originally set. We don't have replicants walking around, well, as far as I know, but we might have. And so it's kind of like how to stay ahead of where we're going as opposed to where we already are. Yeah. I hate to see the Red Box program actually become a reality, but that could happen.
Yeah, there are a lot of things happening, just from the last, like you say, the last 20 years. Look what's happening with information and how much, we're integrated with, all the different media, like we are right now in Zoom. We're all connected. We're on other sides of the planet talking to each other and seeing each other. Where, even 20 years from now, this is almost like, 1960s Star Trek episodes that we would, we're seeing right now. But and there are dangerous aspects to it as well, right? Like we're dealing with DNA and like this 23andMe in those types of things that, where they're mapping out people's DNA and putting them on file. And originally people thought that they were going to be anonymous, and now it turns out that they're just really building a database for law enforcement and, what have you. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do understand the directions in which things may go, and they kind of are already.
It's like in your story when he gets convicted with no real evidence. Yeah. And when you see things on the news, you see that I'm not going to name any specific cases, but you've got things that happen in the news where people are rooting for the outcome of a case. They kind of want the person to be found guilty, and they kind of don't really care about the evidence or whether the man is really guilty. They just care about their agenda. And this is kind of, your story kind of touches on that a little bit in a way, how people are happy to just get a result rather than, seriously think about it.
Right.
It is scary because he gets stripped of everything, not just his reputation or, his house, everything is taken away from him. And It makes you think like people. Like I was thinking about these. You know, is this an impossible thing to happen? Yeah, but it's to me, it's very possible because I know two people. One person who I've interviewed who was illegally put in prison in India for 4 years. Yeah, who I've already interviewed him a few years ago, and I'm going to interview him again soon. So him and another guy who I know who's. I live in Bulgaria, and he was put in prison in Bulgaria illegally. Yeah, he didn't do the crime, and he was just. But they needed somebody to fit the crime. And yeah. And I know everybody in prison's innocent. Yeah, but these people were genuinely innocent. Yeah, and they served time, like a few years as well. So when I was reading this story, I thought it was very like this is what made it more powerful because I know these people personally. But the technology that your story touches on, people, how many people do you think would agree with such a brutal torture of a prisoner? Because I believe like a high percentage of people would agree with this punishment if it was real.
Yeah.
That's to me. I mean, I think that people might get absorbed into scientific research and not have, or at least become calloused to, some of the things that they may do. I mean, this has happened already in the past. I mean, there's been all kinds of studies that have been carried out where the scientists know that there are negative effects and just keep going. And here in the United States and certainly elsewhere, I'm sure, in the not too distant past, right? So, I think that certainly, it can be a dangerous thing. I think it is possible. The good thing about it is that I don't think that people can keep secrets very well. And if something of the magnitude that was going on in my book were actually happening, I believe that it wouldn't be able to carry on for too long because somebody would blow the whistle at some point. So, that's a big problem in government overall. Really, things that should be secret aren't, and things that should be public aren't. Right? So,
well, so that you work on experimental physicist, yeah? Is this well, I've seen you on Google with like big machines, and it looks like an engineer. How close are the two subjects? Because I don't know much about physics. I've only got the Big Bang Theory and these programs. So, and people explain it to me, and it goes over my head, a lot of it. But I find it fascinating. And when I see you with these big machines, and I think like engineering and physics, what's the difference? Yeah.
Physics is an extremely broad discipline, and it ranges from theoretical physicists who might only do work on paper and do complex math to model physical systems, right, to try to describe nature, all the way to experimental physicists who build things, build new devices, build devices to measure, say, the physical properties of matter or to send something into space. And physics encompasses all, everything from math to chemistry to engineering to straight physics to computer engineering, all of it. And within physics, as a physics student, and I'm actually one of the recruiting people in our department to get new undergrads to come. So I kind of know this pretty well, that you can kind of follow your interests within this field, and it's a little bit different than other fields in that sense. And that if you want to be sort of engineer, like an engineer, and actually take engineering jobs as a physics person, you can do that. So I know plenty of people with physics degrees who are engineers. I would say I'm not an engineer. I certainly have built a lot of things, and I work on equipment. I do measurements, designed and done computer programming, all that stuff. But my objective is to measure the physical properties and behaviors of materials. I study magnetic materials. Okay. So yeah, but what you're saying though is right. All the stuff that you see in those pictures, I built it all.
Yeah. I work on it. So sorry, I'm just trying to plug this light in. So you work for like is this like a secret government program that you work for? You're going to build some kind of like
No, no, mine is pretty mine is pretty benign. I did work for a while at the Naval Research Lab, and they do a lot of defense related things that can't be made public. But for the most part, I worked at other government labs, and my funding right now at the university is through the Department of Energy, studying novel magnetic materials and things like that. So. Yeah, no, I'm not buried within the sort of the dark state of dark science that might be going on around the country or the world. But we do build lots of things, and then we do experiments with them that are straightforward, harmless type things. So
that's what you have to say, though, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could look at it and say, yeah, good cover story, but it's really true.
Like Shane, your other books, your physics books, they like over here, I don't know if it's in the same as States, they rode for like 30 odd pounds, GP pounds per book. So I mean, they must be huge, like tomes of knowledge, right?
Yeah, those are about 11 or 1,200 pages. They cover all of physics. It's the students hate them because they have to buy those books and read them, which is I understand completely how dull that can be. But having read them many times myself, of course, working through all of that stuff. But that's and it's unfortunate that the books are so expensive. Although there are electronic versions now, which
right.
It gives them a break a little bit. But
hey, you mentioned page counts. I was fascinated to see that the third Exoskeleton book has, at least in the UK Kindle version, has 666 pages. That can't be an accident.
No, that was an accident completely. I couldn't, all of my page counting and sort of the official page count comes with the printed book. Right, because that's how they figured out how much, when I saw that, I'm like, wow, people are going to ask me that question at some point, but no. No, that book, by the way, is a little bit, probably should have been cut down a little bit, maybe a little too long, are some of the complaints that I get, but.
I've only done 1 and 2, so I'm about to read up this year. So,
Matthew, you're making me jealous with that red wine. I should have got some wine.
Sorry, bud. It's
8:30 on a Saturday, so
yeah.
Well, it's 2:30 here, and maybe I should be drinking some alcohol already too. I don't know.
You've got whiskey in your cup, no?
Yeah, that's right.
You get through the day. So, Matt, how good are you at? What's your physics knowledge? Your level of understanding of physics?
Dude, I failed my physics exam even at like O level, or I don't know what the American equivalent is, sort of high school. So not good. But fortunately, I have a high amount of creativity, so I can just like make stuff up. And joy of science, if you write it convincingly and footnote it and stuff, some people have got in touch and said, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that was actually happening." I was like, "Dude, it's not real. It's all fake." Okay, so.
That's it. Most people reading it have got like a 0 level. I mean, people know things about maths, and they say, or like scientists, and they say like E equals MC squared. They're like, what does that mean? They say Einstein was a genius, and you say, oh, was he? Tell me why. And they're like, E equals MC squared, and you're like, but do you understand what that means? And most people don't understand, and they just call somebody a genius but they don't even know why.
Right.
That's so most people's understanding of physics is probably similar to mine. Yeah.
Yeah, and in science fiction, you can get away with a lot.
Yeah. It's like Shane, when I did archaeology in university, yeah. And for one of the things you learn after bioanthropology, yeah. And they're telling me like a chimpanzee shares like 99% of humans' DNA, yeah. So you think, wow, that's impressive. But then they tell you like a banana shares like 50% of all. Yeah, it's like, so you just in your mind you're like, so what the hell does this mean? You know what I mean? It doesn't really mean much.
Tim, is that just you who has a 50% banana DNA, or is that something else?
I'm like 75% me. It's not because of my intellect, because of something else, but yeah. Yeah, but so we do. So when I was thinking about this physics, and I was thinking people start talking about atoms and, you know, breaking down, and they talk about dark matter, yeah, and how we are, like I read in the newspaper once, how we're just the same as stardust, the same material, yeah. But then I compared this to being like 99% of a chimpanzee's DNA. It's like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Like when they compare us to stardust, what does Shane? Maybe you can explain this in an eloquent way.
Well, it just, all of matter had to come from somewhere, and most of it gets created through stars, and you know, so that's pretty much it. Every bit of matter has come from essentially some you know, star or supernova type explosion, where all of the elements are formed, and that's it. I mean, so it's not really that, you know, profound of a statement to say that we're stardust, because everything, all matter is. I mean, there's, as far as we know, there's no other sort of source of making matter.
Yeah.
So in your book, you talk about like, is it like astral projection when he's coming out of the body? Is this what this is called? Because is that the same thing, or is it a bit different?
I think there's a bit of a difference. I think that, first of all, astral projection, I believe, is voluntary. And I suppose you could argue that it was voluntary. The second one is, I think that in that case, that they mean that the soul is completely free of the body. And in my book, you know, it's tethered, it's still connected. Yeah. So there might be some fine differences in that sense, but it's close to it. Yeah.
But your theory, your what happens in the book is an actual, like, legitimate theory. I don't understand, like, about atoms reforming. They can reform in the same way as you, or I think
that when it you know, the separation between soul and body is completely a separation from matter altogether. So that part which separates, which is outside of the body, it's not composed of atoms, or we don't really know what it's composed of, if you can think of it that way. So, you know, in the last book, we talk about like teleportation. Now that's a different story, right? So the idea of teleportation, and you know, from a real science point of view, the idea is that you would tear something apart completely, get all the information of all the different connections between the atoms and the bonding, and probably some other details we don't even know about yet. Take that information, send it somewhere else. And by sending it, you send it, the only way that we really know how to send it really is via light, right? So that's not matter. It goes off somewhere at the speed of light, and then that information is fed into something that will rebuild all of those atoms in another place with different matter. But, you know, an electron is an electron, and, you know, hydrogen or a carbon atom are carbon atoms, no matter where you are, and they just put them all back together. So that's
fascinating. Are you still you? That's the question, isn't it? If you've broken together, how do you drag your memories through and all of that stuff? You know, or are you a version of you that's not actually you? That'd be fascinating.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the questions, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, we're not even close to doing that, so don't worry.
It's huge. The complexity of it. I mean, Star Trek make it look easy, and I have streams of matter transfer in complete darkness. But you know, when you actually break it down to how it physically works, it's a huge conundrum to try and make something like that work. It's virtually impossible for the moment.
One of your characters gets ripped up, right? Loses a leg and a...
True. Yeah. That's some testicle. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's right. So that information did make it to the next place. That's for sure. So
yeah. I mean, you've got to be careful with these things, I think.
Hey, Matt, I had a question for you, if that's okay. Tim.
Sure.
Yeah, that's how I got you on. So have like a little chat. Like, it's good.
So you know, one thing that I noticed while reading your book, which was you know, I had to pay close attention, you know, for a lot of different reasons. You know, the names, I had to get those straight at first, and after just a short time, I got used to it, of course. But and then, there's a lot of different things happening at once. And one of the things that one has to pay attention to is, as a reader, is the point of view. And I was just curious if you had sort of a strategy as how you addressed point of view, and what point of view do you like to write from the most?
Yeah, I mean, it might show, but I like to, when I voice as the devil, who's kind of mocking humanity, our lack of intellect, our futile kind of, as he sees it, resistance to his grand plans. That was my favorite point of view to write from. And I was inspired by a lot of different books. In fact, one just came out last week. The Last House on Needless Street is a new thriller. And again, that's broken into different points of view. And one of those is a cat. And they may or may not be, facets of the same person, but like it's a fascinating kind of way to present the story from so many different viewpoints. And it does take a bit of concentration, you're right. And some of the feedback I've had is that some people didn't get that. They felt it was too hyperkinetic, it was too fractured. But that's kind of the point. It was, hopefully you can make it out what you want to make out of it, and what you understand from it will be different to what someone else understands from it. So it's definitely not a linear process. I just, part of the way it came about was that I kept a journal of my ideas for many years and then stitched them together. So it didn't have that usual kind of like, we'll start here and we'll go there and we'll go there kind of arc. So it does jump around a lot and that's why I brought in the whole range of footnotes too, because I just had a lot of fun with those. And once I started that, I couldn't really stop.
Well, Terry said he had to go into another room, like Terry, who you spoke to last time. Yeah. Writer of Tales Tales from the Green Hills. Yeah.
I've got his book right here as well. I've got Matt's right here as well. So,
Yeah.
I haven't read Terry's yet, but he's next.
Yeah, he said he had to go into another room after reading the first 20 odd pages. He said he had to go into another room and lie down. He got a headache. So Shane, you're not alone in this, yeah? Because I read the first 30 pages and I was like, what the hell's happening? I thought, am I really stupid, or what's going on? And then once you get into the rhythm, because it's a weird rhythm, yeah. It jumps from text style to format. Everything is like all over the place, which is good. But I think that's the idea, like you said, yeah, to get like different screens and different things going on. Because we're talking about the whole galaxy, so obviously it's going to be a bit complicated. But once you get into it, the 30 pages in, it becomes, it's not so difficult.
Yeah. Wait till you see the comic book, because hey Shane, I'm making a comic book version of it, and that's a lot of fun. I got an artist who is kind of working in the 2000 AD kind of style to draw the characters and kind of make it come alive in a visual medium, and that's a whole new challenge, but it's a lot of fun.
Are they going to look like the characters going to look like those figurines that you have, or? Yeah,
a bit. I mean, I was shocked. I was, as an author, what a fantastic tribute for a reader to spend that much time making character models of your sending to you. I mean, that's just wow. I still can't quite believe that happened.
Because I always get people to introduce themselves at the end. Yeah. When they're more relaxed, because I think sometimes it's like, some people come on and it's like, talk about your book. You watch podcasts and it's so boring. They're just like, Dave said, well, I want to find out about like the person behind the book, and the book comes alive. Then you know what I mean? Because like, for example, your book, Shane, it's written by a guy who's an experimental physicist who you'd expect to be a serious guy. With like, I know your book's serious, but I mean, you expect to be a serious guy with like a dicky ball, and he has no like sort of artistic imagination, And then when I meet Matt, he's mad anyway, isn't he? This book's mad, and Matt, what do you do? I couldn't remember what you did as a job.
Yeah, I'm the head of comms for a charity. We work in the Middle East, so we're helping people whose like homes have been destroyed by ISIS. We help them rebuild, that kind of thing.
Oh wow!
Trying to do some good, and it kind of, so that's my day job.
It's amazing. Yeah. So this is what I mean. You get like a flavor of the people, like, so somebody who's doing this and then writes this book that's a totally wacky story. Like I said, the sexy bloodbath. Remember that? Go on.
Takes you blood. Like that. That's a good line.
Yeah.
Matt, how long did it take you to write your book?
Oh, many years. Because I used to write it mostly on the train while commuting into London, and I keep a hardback kind of like book to write everything down in, with a pen, and that way it was kind of like I had so much data, I had so much stuff to draw on that I had to kind of limit it, and that's why you get so many ideas per page, I guess, in many ways. It's a fascinating way to write, and I kind of feel like it's taking me a long time to get the second novel into a readable format, because if you think the first one jumps around, the second one has so many disparate kind of elements. One of which I wanted to share with you is there's a game where you play with a headship, like in Complete Darkness. And so if I played against you now, Shane, it would fire up a little kind of virtual board, and we would kind of like chess, but with whatever characters our brains could come up with, we'd fight, but we would invest life force in it. So the winner would take the life force from the player. And so that's one of the elements.
I don't know if I'd be playing that game too much.
Yeah, but obviously the prisoners have to play it. They have no choice. So,
Oh, I see. Kind of like futuristic gladiators in some sense.
Yeah. Trial by combat. Yeah.
You could televise it and have people bet as well, I suppose, right?
And of course, you'd have an AI that's unbeatable, who everyone bets on, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, but that'd just be a death sentence. You come up against some crazy AI player that kills everyone.
Yeah. And in the best tradition of Ian Banks, I don't know if you've read any Ian Banks, but he had a great way of naming his spaceships and mines and stuff. So the bad guy, for want of a better words, AI in my book, is called "Your Mother is Looking at Me Funny."
It's still the best little title in the book though is that bar. I want to be a contender. Yeah, what was it called?
The Bad Karma Flashback.
Yeah, Karma, yeah. The name of the bar, Shane, was I want to be a contender. Bad Karma Flashback Bar. Yeah, what a name for the bar.
Right.
So I want to open up a bar one day and have this name. Like it's called
Nice.
Yeah.
That's right.
So Shane, where did you like when you were a kid? So like when Matt was a kid, he liked to play these video games, and he's a self-confessed nerd. Yeah. Well, you played American football, so
wow, yeah.
This seems like maybe you just get an idea in your head of like a sports person who's not they're not geeks or brains, you know what I mean? So
sometimes quite the opposite of that, right? But I think as a kid, I was always just looking for an escape. I mean, it's in sports for me, I always did that. School was pressure. Life in general was kind of had pressure associated with it all. I guess everybody feels the same. And you go to a tough football practice, not even a football game, but like a football practice that lasts, 4 hours or something every day. When you're in the middle of that, the test that you have the next day is not in your mind. And also all kinds of other things aren't in your mind either. You're just worrying about that. And then, so writing for me kind of filled the void when that started to wane off. So when that started to wane, I had to sort of relieve my stress in other ways. And I still played sports, but I read a lot and studied a lot. Physics, is also a distraction from normal life once you get absorbed into this type of thing. But certainly writing has been the long-term fix for me.
I fully concur, actually, because although I'm less sporty, I live my sport vicariously by watching Tottenham and stuff, who are terrible. Although we do have an NFL quality pitch now in London, so that's kind of interesting. But I find the writing is the escape. It's the kind of the way you can make your dreams and your fantasies kind of writ large. And so and isn't that fascinating when you put it out there? Because like we were talking about earlier, some people really don't get it or might hate it. Others, they fully get it and they kind of buy into your wavelength and make figures out of it or whatever. And it's kind of that's such a great kind of like spectrum of opinion out there.
Yeah, you can live out your fantasies for sure, and certainly that plays in some of my books, and in your book probably too. But but it also allows you to sort of reason and think through some of your own ideas. It's almost a meditation for me.
Nice.
A lot of sort of the philosophical threads that play through my books come. They all come from me, but they're also things that I've thought about probably for my entire life. And even as a young kid, I'd kind of had these philosophical ideas that I just, would think about when I would daydream or, ride the bus to school. And, it's this is a way to make those fully worked out on paper and also in your own mind. So it satisfies a lot of needs, psychological and otherwise, I guess, for me.
Talking about football in Tottenham, yeah. I don't know if you've seen, Shane. They've got the best stadium I've ever seen. I don't know how it stacks up against American football stadiums, but did you watch the documentary with I think it was, what's his name, Hancock? Yeah. Did you see it? Stadium unbelievable. Have you ever seen this stadium, Shane?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's amazing, honestly. So future. They had an American football team came over to play. Yeah, I think it might have been the Bears or somebody, and they came over, and basically they've got two pitches that one's over the top of the other one, and so they can even change the pitch, and it's just the whole. They can pour like I think it's something like 14,000 beers in a minute or something ridiculous.
Yeah, beer fills your glass from the bottom. You put your glass down, it fills up like that, and then there's a magnet that cuts it off, and so you can just pick it up and drink it. It's very cool.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. Very futuristic. But the idea, I'm so glad you both come on today, yeah, because the idea is to get them to get the chats more informal and talking about you and, sort of, because the books, I think lots of books are difficult to sell just if you say read this book, but if you see the person behind it, but also, have you ever heard of the Inklings, Tolkien?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a group, him and C.S. Lewis, and a few other writers. They had a pub that they went to in Oxford. Yeah, and they used to go there and they would kick ideas about, groups of writers. And they, and obviously they become even better writers than they were originally. So this is the idea for the channel, to build it more, to come on and on different times, again and again, and just, so the world can see you,
Because I without wanting to sound like a fanboy, but I read Shane's initial Exoskeleton whilst I was deep in the kind of construction of Complete Darkness, and it was a massive inspiration to see someone who'd gone there and wasn't afraid to, just shock with that sort of sci-fi what if. So that for good or bad, that you've definitely helped the birth of my book.
Oh. Wow, that's quite an honor. It's really nice to hear not only when people enjoy the book, but certainly if it has sort of triggered anything else good to come out of it, and certainly this was. So I enjoyed your book a lot, and I was curious too. How many rewrites did you do of your manuscript?
Oh, many. I mean, there's so much stuff that the publisher cut out too because it was too grim.
I see.
What you've got is the censored version, but I mean, it's probably wise because my mum's read it and she recommended to her her friends. I mean, gosh, it probably might have killed some of them otherwise, and I wouldn't want that.
I always tell people that I know, especially other faculty and peers around here, when they found out that I wrote books a long time ago, and a few of them have read all of them and are asking me when the fourth is coming out. But whenever I hand someone that first book, Exoskeleton, I always say, "Don't judge me." Say, you got to get through the first third. It's not really torture porn. It's there for a reason, and it goes away. You'll see the reason for it, but you have to live through it. And so I worry about that sometimes.
Interestingly, he says at the end of the book, he says that basically it was worth it in a weird. He wouldn't go through it again. He wouldn't like to go through the pain. Is that at the end, yeah? Or did I imagine that?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about when I'm speaking to writers. Sometimes I read the book and then I quote something or say something, and they just, no, that didn't happen. But yeah, so when he says it was worth going through, and it's kind of like the psychology behind some of these, some of the things you write. Yeah, you might not even think them as a writer. You might not understand your own psychology. If you showed this to a psychologist, they might break you down and say, you're a crazy bastard. So,
Good enough of that.
You need to be locked up. But so this psychology about hardship and sort of success in the end. Was that did you have any underlying theme of the psychology? Because there's the nurse in it, for example. She's getting pleasure from this. She's smiling,
Oh, Hatley. Yeah.
Yeah. And these people.
She's a nice one.
Yeah. She kind of sounded sexy though. The red lip.
Yeah, that was true too.
That's a good point about the nurse. I had strong Nurse Ratched vibes from The Shining in terms of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Sorry, James Book, and I think everybody likes a really strong character who's you can either relate to or rile against.
Yeah.
You don't want characters you just kind of take or leave. So I thought that's also good writing to kind of create memorable characters, because the worst thing to do is, if you're talking about a book, even a few weeks after reading it and you can't remember much about it, that's a really bad sign. You want something that people are going to go away, it's going to haunt them, or they're going to think about time and time again afterwards. I think that's what a good book should do.
Yeah, definitely. And that's both your books. That's why I'm always thinking of things about them and remember they kind of echo, you know what I mean? And you get when you get in an elevator, you're worried about your testicles for Matt's book.
Yeah, dude, be careful.
when you see with this psychology made me think of I think they did psychology tests years ago where they put people in uniforms.
Yes.
Yeah. Who was that? It wasn't Skinner. It was some other psychologist. And the people in the uniforms had to administer electric shocks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it made me think of these sorts of psychology. So there's lots and lots going on in both your books, with all sorts of things, ethics, religion, everything, psychology. Amazing.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, can I ask Shane, are you looking to expand the Exoskeleton universe into anything non-novel, into say a short film or anything kind of like that? Because I think it would be fascinating to see if that happened.
Oh, I mean, I would love for that to happen. Exoskeleton actually was optioned for a movie.
Nice.
But that kind of that went on for about I guess almost 2 years, and it died out with COVID, and it had been shopped around to quite a number of places. Man. So so right now the movie rights are open. So if that's if I can advertise, Oh, and I need an agent too. So we'll just keep going. But,
what I wanted to do originally, I wanted to get sort of, I bought some camera equipment, filming equipment, get some actors, and sort of do some scenes from some books.
Wow.
Some of the scenes.
What ones you want for that?
I was gonna recreate the elevator scene with you, Matt, as the star.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh boy.
So that was the idea. So I bought I even bought a nice camera yesterday, and a really good filming camera. But then there's different. I don't know if you know anything about cameras. Yeah, there's an EF mount and a PL mount. I bought one with a PL mount, and the cheapest lens is about £5,000.
Wow.
So I'm gonna have to reconsider, maybe sell it and get one with a EF mount, because you can interchange the lenses on it more, Yeah. But it would be nice to do some scenes from some of these, Maybe you'd have to change them around the script a little bit and just do scenes from some of the books, moving forward.
Idea. I like that, and it would be a great calling card for like a movie or whatever. And these days, so many Netflix series and stuff, they're making comic books into films and series just left and right. So I'm kind of secretly hoping when I have my comic version of Complete Darkness later this year, that it might get noticed and it might be another way to kind of attract attention.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you had any contact, Matt? Has anyone tried to contact you about, film rights or anything?
I had one person from. They said they were in Hollywood. They could have been anywhere, obviously. Who was in joint writing a script with me for it, and I was like, I just don't have time to commit to something like that. It would be a fascinating project, but like I say, I have a day job. I have bills to pay. I can't take a speculative punt on something. But so I'd much rather have it, optioned. And did you ever hear of Michael Marshall Smith, who Spielberg, I think, optioned his Spares book for $1 million and never made the film, but he gave him a straight $1 million straight up for that.
Wow, no, that would be a nice. I wouldn't mind that. At least better than not making a film and not getting paid. But it's a pretty steep, nice stipend there. But no, I've not heard that happen. But I know that a lot of these things will get optioned, and it will take a long time to get a green light, and in some cases even 10 years. And I know how this works now because of my experience. It takes a while to set up these meetings. It gets shopped. You don't hear anything back for a while. They build movie posters. There are things I can't share because they're intellectual property that are beautiful movie posters for this.
No way. Oh, wow.
It's amazing. And but it didn't go to the next level. And so that there's a lot of work that goes into it. And so it just takes time. And it's hard to be patient. Once I had that movie option contract, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be great. I was very excited, hard to concentrate for a while. And then I thought, well, to write the second book, I feel some more inspiration to get that one. And the third one, it's like, well, maybe maybe I can be successful at this. And you have a lot of ups and downs.
I keep scenes from. Have you ever seen Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman?
Yeah.
When getting his tooth drilled.
Oh yeah, is it safe?
And then I was thinking of the Man in the Iron Mask when his mask gets glued on. So it was like the uncomfortableness of these two things, but just taken to the extreme with Exoskeleton.
Yeah.
Just like to even more of a higher level of brilliant. Okay. Anything
Can I just ask Shane, to your family and friends, what was their reaction to the Exoskeleton? Because I mentioned my mum, and she was so proud. She gave it all to her friends, and she goes to this little church. They were not ready for complete darkness. They were pretty traumatized by it. So I just wondered if you had anything similar to that.
Oh yeah, I mean, my parents were very supportive, and I think they don't think I'm too crazy, so that when they read it, they probably had the patience to get through the first part to think, how nuts is my son, right? And I felt I was a little worried about giving it to him too. I didn't what are they going to think of this? But right, and then so they liked it. Both my mom and my dad both liked it, and then the neighbors started getting the book, and I get messages from neighbors I haven't heard from where I grew up for a long time, like emails, like, "Oh, I read your book. Your mom gave it to me, and or your dad gave it to me, and I loved your book. And when's the next one coming out?" So you're putting yourself out there when we write anything, but when you write something like this, there's a risk, sort of a social risk associated with getting a little too crazy. They just have to know that it's just for fun, and if it's just fiction, then not a real glimpse of my personality.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. I never want to end these things. I never know how to end them too. Yeah. Oh, we have to end with the beginning. Yeah. So
I can take it.
Do you want to say it again, Matt?
I can take a hint, man. And in fact, it's good timing because I have a large Chinese meal has just turned up, so I have to go and eat.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe you say, "Hello, I'm Matt." What's your name again?
Adcock.
You say, "Hello, I'm Matt Adcock." Yeah. Can you say? That's it.
Or should I just say Shadows Project? Did you want the in there?
Yeah. Like I said last time, I call it the Shadows Project. It sounds pretentious, yeah. You want to sound pretentious, Matt, and say the Shadows Project?
No, I think it sounds good. I think, leave your best life to him.
Okay. Definitely hope to have you on again, man. In different combinations. Now, we're talking about, we can think of topics or think of anything that you think would work or you want to advertise or talk about, or somebody else you want to come on or whatever, just tell me. Yeah. Because Matt recommended some great guy, Dolio, what was his name? Amazing. He's on tomorrow, yeah. So anything you want to push or talk about your books, just tell me and definitely come on.
I'll think about it. It'd be really great to meet in the pub, like you were talking about, but I'm a little far away for that.
You come over, man.
One day,
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We're going to go on tour with the Shadows Project and tour about it. Definitely. I've done it in Italy with a few different people, so.
Yeah. So you ever get to the States, I'm about an hour from New Orleans, and that's where we would go.
Definitely. So. It's lots like, I love it, like, so, yeah, definitely come again. Okay.
Never been, so that would be a dream.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, Teleportation on the road trip, like, that would be amazing.
Yeah, you come with me and Teddy.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'll see you next time, Matt.
All right, guys. Great talking. Take care, guys.
Shane, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.